You everyone for joining us on the Force 4 live stream today. My name is James Tudor-Williams from Force 4 Channery, and with me talking today is Stuart James from Marlock.
Hi James, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Stuart and I are here to talk about Rutland wind generators, the range. We're going to go through setups, the differences between the models, the capabilities of the models, and generally get a better understanding of some of the benefits of having a wind turbine on our boat. As always, if you have any questions at any point about the Rutland wind turbine range or any Marlock products while I'm talking to Stuart, then feel free to let us know in the live chat. If you're not watching live, you can always drop us questions in the YouTube video comment section or on our Facebook page where this video will be posted. Right, Stuart, let's get into it. Thank you again for joining us today. Wind turbines and generators are something that I'm sure most of our customers are familiar with, the viewers as well. They're a common sight in and around marinas. A lot of boats have them, different shapes, sizes, here, there, and everywhere. Can you give us a bit of a background on the Rutland wind turbine, and then also perhaps explain for those that don't know anything what a wind generator is and how it works?
Yeah, no problem. I'd love to. Yeah, a bit of background about Marlock as a company to start with. We're a UK-based manufacturer. We've been in manufacturing wind turbines since 1978, so we've got quite a lot of heritage in this market, and all of our products are made here in Corby in the UK. What is a wind generator? What is a wind turbine? So a wind turbine essentially is a device for battery charging. The wind generator installed on a boat, caravan, motorhome, and other applications as well, catches the wind, and as it spins, it spins some magnets around a winding and produces power that you can use to charge a battery.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So it's a glorified battery charger, basically.
So you talk about that. If that's what they're there for, what sort of power would you expect them to produce? So I guess obviously kind of depends on your conditions, but you know, are they rated? What can you get out of a wind generator?
Yeah, well, there's different size. So the Rutland range, which is what we manufacture, there's 3 models which we specifically make for the marine market, ranging from the Rutland 504, which is a very small, compact wind turbine. From blade tip to blade tip, it's 500 mil, and that produces up to 80 watts. That's the next size up is the Rutland 913, which is designed for a bigger boat, perhaps a sort of 30-foot, 10-meter boat with a bigger battery bank, and that produces up to 350 watts. And then we've got the Rutland 1200. So we've got three models that we specifically make for the marine market, and they all produce different amounts of power for different types of applications.
Okay. So you talk about the differences there, 504, 914, and the 1200 generally being size. Are any of these capable enough to produce enough power to power your boat? I mean, it might be a stupid question. You talk about it being battery chargers and what they're there for, but I guess depending on your boat and your setup, would you say that any of them are sort of standalone capable of powering a boat?
Well, the different size models are suitable for different applications and different size boats and batteries. So, like I say, the 504, which is very small, compact unit, is designed for perhaps somebody who goes weekend sailing. So that 504 in normal everyday wind conditions, so not very high winds, just normal everyday conditions you'd see in a marine or when you're out sailing, that would generally put between 8 to 12 ampere hours a day into your battery.
Okay.
Which, again, if it's a small boat or you just use it on the odd day here or there, that can be whirring away during the week when you're not there, charging up your battery for when you jump on board. You have a nice fully charged battery when you get on there for your nav lights and radio and small devices like that.
Yeah.
The 914, which is always been traditionally our most popular marine turbine, that's designed, like I said earlier, for a bigger boat. So with a battery bank, perhaps 2-3 batteries, you might have an engine start and your domestic bank.
Okay. Yeah.
That will produce in those same sort of winds 45 to 55, 60 ampere hours a day. So that's ideal for a boat which has got a heavier energy use. So they might have a fridge on board, which is always the biggest power consumer device on the boat generally. So that will generally keep up with that sort of size battery bank. And then the Rutland 1200, which is our largest turbine, 1200 because it's 1,200 mil tip to tip on the blade diameter. That will produce 60 to 80, 90 ampere hours a day. So it's a big chunk of power, and that would go an awful long way to running, easily your fridge, pretty much everything on board. Again, it depends on what your sort of power consumption is, but that's a big chunk of power.
No, that makes sense. I mean, like you say, you talk about the 504 being small, and on a small boat, you're not going to have a massive bank of electronics. You're probably not going to have a radar. You're just going to be running like your VHF, at worst your nav lights, a couple of 12-volt sockets here and there. Yeah. So okay, so yeah, like you say, again, as I said, it's a bit of a how long's a piece of string, but depending on where you are or what you're using your boat for, it'll be more than capable of keeping your batteries ready to go, alive for when you turn up. Like you say, if you're just going out on a weekend, it's got a whole week to get topped up again.
The other thing as well is the use of a wind turbine and solar, which I know we will touch on later. It's going to prolong the life of your batteries in terms of their longevity as well, because you're constantly trickle charging them. Yeah. Even if you're leaving your boat for extended periods of time, you're constantly trickle charging and keeping those batteries active, which will give you a longer lifespan out of those batteries as well.
Ah, well, there you go. That's added bonus of them. You've got three sizes there. You talk about the 504 being half a meter, 914, nearly a meter, 1200, 1.2 meters. Is there, like, how easy are they to install? Like, does someone have to be concerned with a minimum height, or obviously there's moving parts, so you're going to want it some sort of height so you're not at risk of it bashing in your head? What's the setup? How easy is it to get them on board?
Yeah, to be fair, with a wind turbine, the higher it is, the better it's going to run, and that's always a compromise. Obviously, with a boat, space is always an issue. You've got lots of other things on board as well, which are rigging and wires and guy wires and lots of other things going on. But really, you want to get it as high as you can. So, for example, we do a range of marine mounting kits. So the 504, the small wind turbine, the marine mounting kit, which we can supply for that, which you can get from you guys, is 2 meters from the deck. Okay. So it comes with the deck brackets, two 1 meter sections of polished stainless steel with a tube joiner. So it gets it 2 meters off the deck. The 914, the marine mounting kit for that puts it at 2.4 meters off the deck. So it's a little bit higher because it's actually a bigger machine. Obviously, it's spinning around, so you want to get it above.
Well, yeah, that's like you say, you've got almost the same width again on it. You need that extra clearance.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 1200, 2.7 meters off the deck. Okay. So those marine mounting kits, that pretty much comes with everything you need, including anti-vibration feet as well, which fit between the bottom of the mounting kit and the deck of the boat to cut down on any noise or vibration that can be caused from a wind turbine. I mean, the noise is minimal. The actual blade noise from the turbine is minimal. And obviously it's a moving part, so you might get a very slight vibration from the wind turbine, but an anti-vibration feet make a big difference.
No, perfect. I was gonna lead on to that when you're talking about noise. Like, are they particularly noisy in the wind? Again, I suppose that depends on how much it's blowing, but on your average use, they're pretty quiet. You don't hear them. Again, when I've been in and around marinas, particularly.
No, the other thing as well, we've found that a lot of people choose to have their own mounting structure made. Because our turbines are designed to fit onto standard size tubing that you can find pretty much in any tube stockist. So polished stainless steel, 41 mil internal diameter fits the 914 and the 1200, and the 504 slightly smaller gauge pole. But these are poles you can find in a local tube stockist. So if you've got somebody in the boatyard that does fabrication work or does work with stainless, for example, you can have an arch made or have it adapted to fit onto an existing gantry that you have. And again, the higher it is, and the further away from people and anything that's going to interfere with the turbine, the better it's going to run. But you want to keep it supported. So you don't want it on a huge pole which is unsupported, because obviously
just waving about in the wind.
Well, you know,
Some
as
of
a
its efficiency.
turbine, no matter what way the wind is facing, the wind turbine is going to follow it. So, so you want to make sure that it's nice and secure. So we supply through you guys as well some polished stainless steel stays that can hold the mounting kit nice and solid.
Yeah. No, it's funny you went on to talk about getting things fabricated. You know, that the Rutland I'm most familiar with is the 914. Sold a couple when I was in and around the stores. And I remember being in one of our handball stores, and the guy there, I think he had grand ideas of changing a small boat into a big blue water cruiser. So the back of it was very busy. And he took it to the stainless guys on site. And yeah, they said, you know, everything, you can clamp it onto your existing rails. You can add supports to it nice and easy. It wasn't any extra faff. Might have been a bit of extra cost for him. It wasn't faff. It was very easy for him to do.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people do say when we do shows, for example, you know, a lot of people come to our stand and say, oh, I've been looking at a wind turbine for a long time. I'm not sure I've got the space for it. And actually, I mean, the only space you're really giving up is the pole, because once it's actually up and above, then it's out of the way.
Yeah, I think he had dam buoys, all kinds of, you know what a back of a boat gets by. There's horseshoes, there's dam buoys. But he found a way and he made it work. Talking about the installation there, we talked about getting them up. What do you have to concern yourself with regards to wiring? I mean, obviously, it's just going from there to your batteries, but you know, what is that installation any sort of particular faff? What's the wiring involved?
No, it's all fairly simple. So it's all low voltage DC. So our turbine's available in 12, 24, or 48 volts on the Rutland 1200. The 504 is only available in 12 volt, but it's very simple wiring. So on the 504 and the 914, it's a 2-core cable from obviously down the pole from the bottom of the wind turbine, and then through the deck of the boat for a deck gland, or like a scan strut gland of some description. And then once it's in the boat, obviously you'll run your wiring as close to or as straight as you can to the batteries. Obviously it's round here, down there, through here, bit of everywhere. But once you want to get the wiring as close, well, the controller as close to the batteries as possible. So we do a range of a couple of choices of controllers. So that's the other thing you'll need. The wind turbine produces the power. The controller will prevent your battery from overcharging.
Okay.
So the controller you want fairly close to the battery bank, within a metre or so of your battery bank if possible. Purely because the controller, it monitors your batteries, and once your batteries start to reach fully charged, it will start to physically slow down the wind turbine. So once your batteries reach full, the wind turbine starts to slow down. But it does that by monitoring your battery voltage and making sure that's accurate, because once your batteries get to a certain point, it then needs to start slowing down the turbine so that you don't overcharge your batteries. But the installation, yeah, pretty simple. The Rutland 1200 has a 3-core cable actually coming down from the wind turbine, because it actually produces AC at the wind turbine, and the controller for the Rutland 1200 is supplied with the actual turbine itself. So it's this controller here. And so you have your 3 cables from your wind turbine into the controller. This will be down by the battery compartment. And the Rutland 1200 controller actually has a charge splitter as well. So if you're charging more than one bank of batteries, so your engine start and your domestics, for example, you've got 2 outputs for your batteries here.
Oh, amazing.
And all of our controllers, so that's the one for the 1200, the 914 controller, you've got a choice. You can have the Rutland, the HRDI controller.
Nice.
So again, this does exactly the same thing for the 914 and the 504. Wind turbine wires into here, and then you've got a charge splitter for 2 separate banks of batteries. You've also got a digital display on here as well.
Okay.
And the basic controller is for the 504 and the 914 is the HRSI, all of which will take the wind turbine and solar panels as well.
Okay.
Both of these controllers will take up to 160 watts of solar, and the Rutland 1200 controller will take about 250 watts of solar, so you can have a dual wind and solar system.
So you can feed, if you're running a wind and a solar system, you can feed them both into the controller, both into the batteries, and it monitors it all there and keeps.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So, I mean, you mentioned it there, and maybe I missed it But is there a significant difference between the HRDI and the HRS side? Do they do different things, or is it just the display and the output?
It's they will both monitor the batteries to make sure that you don't overcharge the batteries. The HRSI is just your simple regulator, so there's no screen on here. It's just got a couple of little LEDs that change colour depending on the battery state and whether the wind turbine's charging. But there is no charge splitter, so this is just for a single bank of batteries, so your domestic batteries, or just
just your engine battery if that's what you got.
Yeah. All of our controllers also have the ability, so they will stop your wind turbine spinning once your batteries reach fully charged. They'll do that automatically. But if you want to stop the wind turbine for whatever reason, you want to do some work near it, or you want to shut it down for any other reason, you can just flick this switch on the controller. And again, that will physically start to slow the wind turbine down and stop it spinning.
Oh, amazing. Is that just done with the voltage and working with the magnets to sort of do it that way?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It uses it creates basically a short circuit, so it locks the magnets against the winding, and it does the same thing when the batteries start to reach fully charged. We create a pulsating short circuit, so when the batteries start to reach fully charged, that pulsating short starts to slow the wind turbine down, and we increase the frequency of that short circuit, and that eventually will slow the wind turbine right down, so it's just ambling around and no longer charging.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Cool. The other difference with the HRDI, as I say, has got this display on here, and that will tell you in real time how much energy you're getting from the wind. Press a button, how much energy you're getting from the solar, how much energy you're getting from the combined wind and solar system, and your battery voltages as well.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know that you've got it in your hand. You're prepped. I was going to say, I know that we do something called a remote display. Talk to us about the remote display you got in your hand.
Yeah, here it is. So, like I say, a lot of these controllers will actually be hidden away quite near the battery compartment. So they might be down, by someone's feet or near a bunk or near the battery compartment. So you can't always see what's on the screen. So with the remote display, this will work. So we have a remote display that works with the HRDI, and we have another remote display, looks very similar, that works with the Rutland 1200 controller. Okay. And on here, it's a wired display. On here is a mirror image of everything that would be on the display of the HRDI. So it will tell you how much you're producing from wind, how much you're producing from solar, your battery voltages. You can also manually stop the wind turbine by pressing the buttons here, so there's a little menu you can go through. So it's a nice little add-on, and this could go on your chart table, for example, where you can see it. It's surface mount and recess mount as well, so you've got a choice of how you mount it.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So like you say, like batteries generally aren't the most accessible things, and if you want that regulator as close to them as possible, you're not necessarily going to be that easy to keep an eye on what your batteries are doing. So it's good to know that there is a display that you can put, like say, cockpit, chart table, wherever you've got space if you want to track your batteries. That's nice.
Yeah, we always find with all these things, with a boat, space is always a premium. So the controller ends up going where it needs to go, which might not be accessible. Like say, it could be in a locker or somewhere like that. So the idea with that remote display is you can put that wherever you need it to go. But I mean, like I say, the controllers themselves, they are designed to just monitor your batteries. So there's no user interaction. Once you've got it installed, actually, the controller itself will look after the system to make sure you don't overcharge your batteries. Or what will also happen as well is, for example, if you're on shore power or if your alternator is running, you may find that actually the wind turbine, you're sailing away, you start the engine, all of a sudden the wind turbine starts to slow down because your battery voltages have jumped up because your alternator's charging, and our controller thinks, well, the batteries are full, so it starts to slow the wind turbine down. But you don't have to disconnect anything, you can just leave it all as it is.
Oh, perfect. No, that's, sounds like a really handy system if you're going that way. We've touched on it a couple of times, we've mentioned it. Solar panel, or solar power, should I say, is there a significant difference or benefit between running wind power over solar power, like output efficiency, or is it much the same? An argument for one over the other, combined system?
It all depends on what you want the system to do. So, for example, if you had let's say you had a rib and you just want to be able to jump on board when you get to the marina, and the engine will start straight away for you. But you've only got a small battery on board that just runs the, once the engine started, it runs the radio and a few other bits and pieces. And actually, a small solar panel will quite happily just sit there, trickle charging your battery, just putting in, replacing the natural discharge on your batteries, and will be ideal. If you are an ocean-going sailor and you do some more long-distance cruising, so, for example, we work quite closely with the World Cruising Club, and we do their seminars and things. The guys who are about to do the Arc, for example, a lot of them will like to have a combination of wind and solar, because they're going down to the Mediterranean, which is where solar is obviously going to come into its own. Not as much wind at certain times of the day. And when they're going across the Atlantic, as they start to head to the Caribbean, and obviously they're picking up the winds as they go, they've got a combination of wind and solar. But a lot of the ocean-going sailors like to have that dual reliability, that dual redundancy of having both systems. So it's horses for courses. If you do a lot of sailing in the north of Europe, for example, solar's great in the summer. In the winter, it's not quite as good.
4 hours of daylight or whatever it is.
Exactly. So it is very much dependent on the type of sailor you are, the type of vessel, your type of energy usage. But that you guys sell some great solar panels, some semi-flexible panels that even if you don't want to have them deployed at all times, you can just roll them out. You can keep them under a bunk, and so you can just bring them out of from under a bunk or wherever they're hidden away when they're not in use. Plug them in, and so they can be charging your battery just as and when you need them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
There's also solar panels which you can fit directly onto the deck of the boat, which you can walk on, which have anti-slip surfaces on them, very hard wearing. And then there's the traditional glass solar panels as well, which are generally fitted onto a gantry, because obviously you don't want to walk on them or drop things on them.
No, absolutely not.
But they'll all work quite happily hand in hand alongside with either through our controllers or as a two systems connected to the same battery bank.
No, well, it's interesting, or it makes sense, as you say, like something that a user would have to consider. I mean, here in the UK, I mean, there's a debate that probably wind power is better than solar, but it can be determined, like, not even if it's offshore or onshore, but just geographic. If you're a person who keeps your boat in the south of France, you're probably more inclined to have solar on board. You know, you're going to get many more hours throughout the day of that. If you're in the Baltic or whatever, you get solar and you get wind, but depending on what time of year you are, one's definitely going to be more beneficial than the other.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah, it is. And the big seasonal differences compared to the Mediterranean, like you say, the further north you go, solar's great in the summer, but just, may not be quite enough for what you need in the winter. So, a combination of the two, you do see a lot.
And there's been plenty of times when I've been in the Med where you see a lot of boats, but you don't see a lot of boats with sails up.
See a lot of people relaxing and swimming. And,
So your wind turbine there. Right. Stuart, is there anything that you don't think we've covered, or that you would like to add about either the Rutland range or Marlec or anything else? I think we've talked about most things.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to say that the Rutland range now is the Rutland 1200, for example. We've now developed, we've extended the range, so it's now available in 48 volt as well. We're seeing the market moving towards people having full electric boats, full electric outboards, for example, with lithium battery banks. So the Rutland 1200, you can now order as a 48 volt model, and you can either let the factory know or let you guys know when you're ordering it the parameters of what you want the batteries to be set to, because lots of lithium batteries have they don't all share the same settings. So what is fully charged on one battery won't always be fully charged on the next manufacturer of lithium batteries. So we can set those parameters here at the factory when the order's placed, or we now also offer a cable and an app, a PC app, so that you can actually set your own battery parameters on the Rutland 1200 controller. So if you're using other types of technology like lithium, for example, then you can set those parameters yourself. I think also to say that I touched on earlier, we all of our wind turbines all come out of this factory right here in Corby, and so any spares that you might need 8-10 years down the line, bearings, brushes, replacement bits and pieces, they all come from us here, and so we've even got machines from the mid-80s that we can still service with spares.
See, that I really like, because again, it's nice to know that you've got a dedicated spare range. It's not a buy a thing, it's broken, throw it away, or just replace it. Like, we can maintain this, you can keep it going, you can have a wind generator for 20-30 years and get the new bushes, new magnets. So when sailing, or the boat industry it's not amazing for green, but considering the hobby is a very green, eco-friendly sort of hobby, it's nice to know that there are products out there that are sort of backing that up, but not only by being like renewable energy, like solar and wind, and trying to take the strain off of shore power, but also to keep those things going rather than just toss them in the bin and put a new one up. I think that's a really good feature. That's really nice.
Yeah, we quite often get somebody says, I've just bought a boat, I think it's got one of your turbines on, it's got 6 blades and it's got Rutland on it, and I don't know how old it is. It was on the boat the day I bought it, and then we can trace it back from the serial number, and it was made in 1997, and they need a new set of brushes for it, and those sort of things we can still provide.
That's amazing. No, that is good. I think you're seeing more and more people coming to it, and obviously it's good to see that you're ahead of the curve. If that if you can do things dating back that long. So no, I think that's a major plus, knowing that if you're buying a wind generator off our shelf or off a shelf anywhere, and 5-10 years down the line it's not delivering what it's meant to, you can get it sorted. And I just think that's a really good thing. That's a really nice feature. Well, then I think that probably just about wraps it up for us here then. Stuart, thank you very much again for coming and joining us and talking about all things Marlec, wind and solar.
Thank you, James. Really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you very much for watching.
No, again, anytime. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, watched live, or have tuned in and watched post on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you to Elise working out there behind the scenes, putting up the pictures for us. And that's it from me, James. We'll see you next time.